Hello everyone. Welcome to a class of Flutter for learning to create mobile application. So if you're planning to learn Flutter, then you are in the right place because in this class we will cover everything to get you started with creating your first mobile application. Now let's see what you're going to learn from this class. Introduction to Flutter, installing and setting up Flutter and Android Studio, creating a new project and running it, basic understanding about the folder structure, understanding about activity and widget, understanding the main source code flow, creating a main source code, about the material app class, about the scaffold class, learning about the app bar, creating a floating action button in Flutter, the bottom tab navigation, learning about the navigation drawer, working with the drawer header, difference between drawer and end drawer, working with the body in Flutter, the body container, learning about how row works in Flutter, making button in Flutter. After completing this class, you will be able to learn installing Android Studio and Flutter, get understanding about making mobile application, create different components inside your mobile application, learn making different icons in your mobile application, run and test your mobile application, make actionable buttons in Flutter. So here you will also have supporting resources in this class. It, so it will be basically easier for you to learn. And during learning, if you face any issue or if you have any question, then feel free to ask me. I'm always there for you to help you. So now let's start learning Flutter for developing mobile applications. Hello
together.
everyone and welcome to the first chapter of Introduction to Flutter, and this is the Flutter tutorial. So now we're gonna learn that what Flutter is and what are the different features of Flutter and how we guys are going to work over here. So let's not waste much time and let's get started. So the first thing which we're gonna learn over here is what is Flutter and why do we use Flutter. So if I tell you guys for an basic definition of Flutter, so Flutter is basically a cross-platform application development. And over here in this simple definition, what do we mean by cross-platform? So the code we will generate to make an web application, let's say for a mobile or for a Windows, with the same code, we will be able to run that particular code for an Android application as well as for a Mac application. Okay. So this is a mobile cross-platform application development framework. And also we can develop different kind of web pages, maybe for Mac, if you're using Linux. So if I tell you guys in simple word, you are just developing a particular set of code and you are running that particular code in different environments. Well, if you can actually run that same code for Mac or an Apple phone, if you're using, you will be able to run the same code. If you're using an Android phone, you will be able to use that same code to develop an app for a web page. Okay, so this kind of works like that. Okay, so this is a highly cross-platform application development framework. And now the next thing what we are going to do is that why we should use Flutter and how it is helpful. So we are going to look into some of its features because once we move deeper into our classes, we are going to explore more of it. Okay. So some of the features of Flutter that it is an open resource. So what do you understand by open resource? So Flutter is basically free, like you don't have to pay anything to use Flutter. So all the things which are available over there to create your web application is basically free because there are so many websites, there are so many frameworks for which you guys need to pay. Okay, but Flutter here actually provides us with all the free resources using which we guys can actually create a front end and also a back end feature of an application. Okay. And the next feature of why we should use Flutter it is that it is a highly cross platform framework. So as I've already told you that why it is a highly cross platform framework, because let's say you are creating an app. Okay, let's say the name of your app is exercise dot io. Okay, and if people want to access your particular application, you are going to code it for different platform. Let's say for iOS, you're going to code differently. For Windows, you're going to code differently. For Linux users, you're going to code a bit differently. For uh, Android application, okay, you are going to code it differently. But over here, in Flutter, you are just coding once, which will be applicable to all the platform available. Okay. So with minimal effort, let's say you don't have to do the same thing or the same coding back again and again differently for all the other platforms because you're just coding once and you're applying it in all the platforms available. So this is very highly cross-platform application and saves a lot of your time. Okay, very time efficient as well. Okay, and the next feature is that you will be able to see the instant changes you make. Okay, let's say as you're coding inside, okay, and once you're coding, if you make any changes, you guys will be able to see that particular change once you're working as well. Let's say you did make some change in your font which you're using, okay, inside your application. You will be able to see the changes in the emulator right at that particular time itself. Okay. So at the same time, this particular uh, framework is very like it actually responds quite well. Okay. So that's another good advantage of using Flutter. And the next feature which we're going to learn is that you will be able to access all the native features of the device you are using. Okay. So what do you mean by that you will be able to access all the native features? So let's take an example. You are on your phone and you're accessing a particular application. Okay. And also here you need to understand I'm talking about the native features of a particular device you're using. Let's say it can be your laptop, it can be a phone, okay, it can be your desktop, okay, it can be any phone, let's say Android phone or Apple phone, okay, it can be an iPad, whatever you're using. So this particular devices, they do basically have some native features. So native features like the GPS, okay, so you can have the vibration, the ringtone. So all these things are different for different devices, okay. So these are called the native features of the device. So you will be able to access all of those, okay, from Flutter. Let's say if someone's open or click on a particular button, you can just respond. You can just tell them or give the code to Flutter that once they click on this, just give it up a vibration. If they're using a phone while they're working, okay. So you will be able to access all the native features which makes your application more interactive and more interesting. Okay. So that is another feature which is a lot important for making it quite more interactive. And the main thing about Flutter is that you can use minimal code to get the most outcome. Okay. So you might have seen in different languages of coding, you need to write so many codes to basically get some outcome in your website. Okay. So here, Flutter basically offers some minimal code to get the most amount of outcome. So you don't have to write a lot of code to get a particular small outcome or a small change. But here it actually provides you that with minimal code and very effective outcome which you will receive. So overall, Flutter is basically highly interactive and highly time efficient framework which you guys can use to build your website, build your web application. You can build your mobile application as well. Okay. So I hope you guys have got an introduction of what we are going to do throughout this tutorial. Okay. And why should we use Flutter for developing our web application? So yeah, I hope to see you all in the next chapter where we're gonna learn that how you can install Flutter and how you are going to install all the necessary items before getting started on creating your web application in Flutter. So see you all in the next chapter. Till then, take care and goodbye Hello everyone and welcome you all to another chapter of the Flutter tutorial. So now we are on our chapter number 2, where we'll be installing and setting up Flutter and also Android Studio. So basically first I'll be showing you guys from where you guys can install Flutter and how you guys will set that up. Okay. Before starting a new project in Flutter, what are the things that you need to do to make sure that your Flutter is running well inside your Android Studio properly, that you can create some web application seamlessly. Okay, so we're gonna learn about all of that over here in this particular chapter. So let's not waste much time and let's get started. So the first thing, what you're gonna do right over here is, let me just close these tabs. Just go to your search engine. It can be a Google Chrome, it can be Mozilla Firefox, Opera Mini, or anything as such. Okay, if you do have Explorer also, it will work the same way. And from your search engine, make sure to type Flutter installation and click on enter. Okay. So once you click on install Flutter, what you need to do is you need to come here down this particular option, which is known as flutterko.dev. Okay. And from there, click on install Flutter. And here you guys can basically see that they're asking you to select the operating system on which you are installing Flutter. Okay, so if you do have a Windows laptop, make sure to download the Windows Flutter SDK file, which is Software Development Kit. Make sure to download the Software Development Kit for the Windows. Okay, this is right over here. You guys can basically download that. And if you do have a Mac OS, let's say a MacBook, okay, or you're using the Mac OS system, in that case, make sure to click on this one. And here you guys can just make sure that inside Mac, which you're using, like are you using the Intel or you're using the Apple Silicon OS? Okay, so according to that, you need to come here and basically download the software development kit zip file. Okay, and let's say if you do have Linux, you guys can click on Linux, and here also basically you do have the way of how you guys will be able to download. So this is the file which you need to download for using Flutter, and also for each of this operating system, you also do have the system requirement. Okay, so this is the system requirement of Linux over here. And if you just go to Chrome OS, okay, so this is the system requirement for the Chrome OS. Okay, you guys can see the operating system, the displays. Okay, so let's come here and let's mostly focus right over here. So the operating system should be Windows 10 or later. The disk space should be 1.64 GB, which does not include disk space for the IDE, which is going to be the Android Studio. So we are going to use the Android Studio. And here you guys can see the tools. Make sure that you match those requirements. Like if you do have something less over here, it might give you some problem while you're working on your application. Okay. So over here for operating system, it should be Mac OS and the disk space should be 2.8 GB. Okay. And here you guys can see that Flutter basically uses Git for installation and upgradation as well. Okay. So over here now, I'll just click on Windows. And from here now you guys can just click on Flutter Windows and here you guys can see it will get downloaded. Okay, so the file is around 985 MB. So I already have downloaded this one, so I'll just cancel it just to save up some time for all of us right over here. And now what you are going to do is you are going to go to the place where your file has been downloaded. So it has been downloaded here in my download. And I also have downloaded the Android Studio, but I'm going to show you how you guys can do so. So I'll just take both of this file and let's go to my desktop. And from here, I'll just go to my resource file. Okay. So let's come here. I will just go to my resource file. And right here, if I just double click, you guys can see under this zip file, I do have a file known as Flutter. And inside Flutter, basically, I do have all of these frameworks which I need once I am actually creating a web application. So let's come back right over here and to unzip this one, I will just right click WinRAR and I am going to extract file here. Okay, so I'll just click on extract here. And as you guys can see, this is basically getting extracted. So it might take some time, but you guys can see it is extracting quite fast. Okay, so let me just wait for a bit over here. And once this is done, we will move on to install the IDE, which is the Integrated Development Environment. Okay. Here, as you guys can see, Flutter basically has been downloaded. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and I'm just going to delete this one. And if I just double click over here, you guys can see that I do have all of this file, all these markdown sources, okay, all of these particular folders which we are going to use for the development. So now let's go back and now let's see that how you guys are going to download the Android Studio, which is the integrated development environment, or basically where we guys are going to do the whole code. Okay, because this is a framework, and there should be something where we basically need to code that particular thing, and make sure to choose a place or make sure to select a path where you guys will be able to redirect all your files. Okay, so now let's close this down. Let's go to your search engine and let's open up a new tab. And from here, now I'm going to type, let's turn off my cap, install Android Studio. Okay, so you guys can see. And once you're right over here, now the first thing, what you will be doing is you guys can just click on install Android Studio option right over here. And as you guys can see here, if you do want to download the latest version of Android Studio, you guys can just click it right over here and it will just download the latest version of the Android Studio. Okay. And also, if you want to download the other versions which were released a bit back, you guys can also get those files right over here. Okay. So download the latest version, see more information right over here. So different platforms, okay, they do have it for the Mac, okay, for Linux, the Chrome OS, okay, and if you just go to these develop options, there are a lot of options right over here. So from here, basically, if you just click one of this file, and you guys can see there is this term sheet, okay, so there are all of these terms and conditions, so make sure to tick this particular checkbox and you can just click on download Android Studio and it will be downloaded. Okay, so just from here now, as I have already downloaded, I'm not going to do it back again because it is a pretty big file if you do want to see. Okay, so it's around 1.1 GB. Okay, so the total size of Android Studio. So this is how you guys can basically download it. So now let's come here. Let me just close all these tabs which I have opened in my search engine. And let me just come here and let me show you guys how you guys will be able to install it inside. So to install it, just like other applications, just double click right over here and it will load up a page and I'll make sure that you guys follow what all you need to do right over here. So you guys can see it's just verifying the installer, okay, and it will just pop me up a page, okay. So here you guys can see this is the setup page which shows me welcome to Android Studio setup, and from here I'll click on next. And one important thing to notice over here is that here you guys can see here it's asking me select component to install. Okay. And from here there is one option which I have tick marked is the Android virtual device. So make sure that you tick mark this particular checkbox because once you're working on creating a mobile application, it will basically show you guys an emulator inside your PC. Like it will just show mobile and it will show you how your application is looking in that particular cell phone. Okay, so that is quite important. And from here, I will click on next and you guys can see the program files. The location specified must have at least 500 MB of free space. I'll just click on next and from here I am going to click on install. I'll just wait for it to get installed first. And here, like once you are done, okay, you are done installing the Android Studio setup. Let's click on next. And here, there is an option which says start Android Studio. Okay, so when you're starting Android Studio for the first time, or when you're installing, as I was installing Android Studio, make sure that you do have internet connection in your PC or in your laptop or in your device in which you are using. Okay, because for the first time, what it does, it does actually download different applications and different widgets for itself to work. Okay, so I'll just click on finish right over here. And you guys can see screen reader detected. Do you want to enable screen reader support in Android Studio? And I'll just enable it right over here. And I will just click on don't send. And over here now you guys can see that here it is giving me a welcome option. So let me just close this thing down. Let me just increase the size. Okay. So this wizard will basically set up your development environment for Android Studio. Additionally, the wizard will help port existing Android apps into Android Studio or create a new Android application. So from here, I'll click on next, and here you guys can see choose the type of setup you want for Android Studio. So the first one is standard, which is Android Studio will be installed with the most common settings and options. And if you do want to customize your installation settings, you guys can also do that. But for me, I'll recommend you guys go with the standard one. So I'll just click on next, and here you guys can see that if you want to review or change of any of your installation settings, you guys can click previous. So from here now, once I click, it will download all of these files, which is a total size of 2.25 GB. So I'll just click on next. And after that, here you basically do have the license agreement. So I'll just click on accept. And once I click on accept, I will come right over here. I will just come down. Let's click on accept. And here, where I don't have the option of going next. And once you have reviewed all of these licenses, just come here, Intel Android Extra license. Make sure to accept this one over here. Make sure to accept this terms and condition. Make sure to accept the Android Extra license. And afterwards, you guys can click on finish. And here it is starting to download. So basically, it might take some time right over here. So we will get back once all these files have been downloaded, and we'll be getting ready to start working. So over here, as you guys can see that this particular file has downloaded all its components. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click on finish. And here now, this type of interface will basically be shown. Okay. But now also this is basically not ready for me to start working. Okay. So now what I need to do over here before starting to work. So as you guys can see on the left hand side, I do have this option which is known as project, customize, plugins, learn. And here now, once I come here onto the plugins option, I need to make sure that I download my plugin accordingly. But let me just show you, just see what are the options available right here at this point. New project, open and get from VCS. But once I download the plugin, let's say I need to download the Flutter plugin. Okay, so with Flutter, Dart will also be installed. So I'll just click on install right over here, and it might take some time as well for it to get installed. Okay, so make sure to install these accordingly. And now once this particular Flutter plugin is being installed, now I will again restart my IDE. Okay, so let's click on restart, and here my Android Studio will basically be restarted again. And now once I'm restarting my Android Studio, here now you guys can see that I do have another option available, which is new Flutter project. Then I do have the new project, and after that I do have these open options. And after that over here, if you need some other particular options like import an Android code sample, if you do have a code sample, if you do want to import it, you guys can do that. This is the virtual device manager, the SDK manager, which is the software development kit manager. Okay, so profile or debugging APK, you guys can also do that. And here is the customizing option. If you want to go from the dark theme to a light theme, you guys can come here and basically move to a light theme as well. So over here, you guys can select the language and the region, the IDE font size. Okay, if you want to adjust colors for red, green, vision deficiency, if you do have that, okay, you guys can also adjust colors for that. But for me now, I'll just keep the theme as the light theme. Let's go to project. And yeah, I hope you guys to have understood this class on how you guys are going to install your Android Studio, how you're going to install Flutter in your PC, and set everything up and get started with your first project with Flutter. Okay, so in our next class, we will learn how you will be able to create the first project and how to get started on working with Flutter. So take care, everyone. See you all in the
Hello
next
everyone.
chapter. And welcome you all to another chapter of the Flutter tutorial. So now we are on our chapter number 3, where we'll be creating a new project and we will be basically running it. So we are going to learn how to create a new project, and before that also we are going to learn that how you're going to set that project up. Okay? So we're going to learn about all of this right over here into this particular chapter. So let's not waste much time and let's get started. So over here on my screen, as you guys can see now, this is the home page of Android Studio. So in our last class, I do have showed you guys how you can actually install the particular plugin. Okay, so over here I have installed the Flutter plugin, and if you just go to this installed option, here you guys will be able to see what all you have installed. Okay, so automatically once I have installed Flutter, okay, I have installed Dart as well. Okay, so you guys can see here these are the features. If I wanna see the feature of Flutter, I can see the features of Flutter over here as well. Okay, if you do wanna disable those things, you guys can basically disable these things as well. Okay, so instead of showing the install option here, this is the marketplace. If you need other plugins, you guys can also get those other plugins from here. So now let's get started on creating a new project from the scratch. Okay. So if I want to create a new Flutter project, I need to click on new Flutter project right over here, which will give me a pop-up page quite like this. Okay. So under new project, you guys can see there are a lot of options, but basically I will choose the Flutter option from the left hand side. Okay. And from the Flutter option, the next thing what I need to do is they're asking me to put the Flutter SDK file, which is the software development kit path. So you guys remember that once we were downloading Flutter, I do have unzipped a particular file and I do have saved that into my resource file. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put that particular path right over here. So let's click on this particular option. And from here, you guys can see the Flutter tutorial resource file. And this is that Flutter file which I have extracted, and I'll just click on OK. And after clicking on OK, let's click on next. And once I click on next, they are going to give me a page quite like this. Okay. So over here, the first thing what I need to do is you need to choose out the project name. Okay. So I will just come here and I will just name this project as application 1. Okay, otherwise application underscore 1. And now I can also select the project location. So I'll just click on this three dot option. Let's click on this resource file and I'll just click on OK. So the project location is the Flutter tutorial resource file. And now I can also provide a description over here. So I will just write for my description that this is an application for my Flutter tutorial. Okay. So I'll just type this particular description. You guys can just type as you want. Okay. And after that, the next thing what I need to do is I need to select the project type. Okay. So what kind of project I will be making over here. So will I be making a plugin, a package, a module, skeleton, FFI plugin, an empty project? So as we are going to create up an application for a mobile, okay, so for that I am going to click on application right over here. And after that, you guys can see I do have the option of organization. Okay, so let me just show you guys right here of how this particular application actually works. Okay, so once you guys are actually creating an application, this is basically going to be the name or the what to say the address. Okay, so the as the name of my application right now is application underscore one. So my uh, domain is basically going to be com.example.application underscore one. So if you want to change it to a different domain, you guys can actually change it. Let's say if I want to change this particular word dot example, I want to put something else, I can do that. Okay. So you guys will be able to see this name, which I'll be showing you guys once I actually run my website or once I import my website. Okay, I'll be showing you guys that. And now the next thing is the Android language. Okay, so over here, what is the language I do want to use? So they're asking me that. Okay. So by default, as Kotlin is selected, I will let it keep as Kotlin. I do want to use the Java right over here. If you guys do want to use Java, you guys can use Java right over here as well. Okay. So that's it. And now the next thing is they're asking me about the platform. Okay. So for me, as I do want to create up a mobile application, I will just unmark uh, all these checkboxes, which is Linux, Mac OS, Web, and Windows. So I'll just mark only the Android and the iOS checkbox. And here you guys can see that here you also do have the option when created, the new project will run on the selected platform and others. As I do have unmarked all of this, if I do want to add all this later, I can do that. As here it says that others can be added later. Okay. So once I'm satisfied with the project name, the project location, the description, project type, the domain, okay, and the language which I'm going to work on with. Okay, so I can just click on create. If you do want to see more settings, you guys can see the more settings option. This is the module name, the content root, or all these things are basically inside my resource file. Okay, so I'll just close this thing down and I will just click on uh, okay, but here it shows that invalid module name, which is Flutter tutorial, must be a valid Dart package name lowercase with okay. Click on OK, and let me just put application. And now if I just click on create, so it will basically create me a Flutter project. Okay. So you guys can see the Flutter project is getting created. It is actually being imported. So I will just wait for it to get started. So now over here, I will just run the Flutter doctor. And here you guys can basically see this is the page which will actually be shown. Okay. So now, here, as you guys can see, you guys can basically maintain the place right over here, and you guys can just hide this as well. Okay. And from here, now, you guys can actually get this project file. Okay. So here, you guys can basically see over here this particular Flutter resource file. So right now you guys might be getting a bit confused of where the file is, where we are going to code, and how it will actually work. Okay, so let's come here, let's click on project. And if you do want to run this particular project, I will be showing you guys how you guys will be able to do so. So there is this option of project, this option of packages. Here you do have the option of project files, the production option, the test option over here, project source files. Here you do have the project non-source file. If you do wanna open up any files, it will be opened here. And also you do have the scratches and the console right here. Okay, so now we will see that how you will be able to actually get started or basically run the application which you have created. So now from here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come here into this particular option. Let's click on this main menu and I will just close this particular project. Okay. And once I have closed this project, you guys can see I do have my application one right over here. And I'm just going to double click onto this application one project, and here you guys can see if I just minimize, now I have basically opened up the application one, which I do have inside the Flutter tutorial resource file. Okay. So I will just open this thing up and I'll just keep this one quite like this. Okay. So over here, I have already told you that over here, I have told you guys about the project panel. I have told you guys about the packages. Okay, so I do have the project files over here. Okay, so then the production, then I do have the test, and here you do have the project non-source file, source file, scratches. There is the option of Android. Okay, so under Android, you guys can see that I do have the application one and also the application one underscore Android right over here. So for default, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to keep this Flutter tutorial resource file right over here. Okay. So let's say if you do want to run your Flutter project right over here, you guys can basically run it right from here itself. Okay. So also on the extreme left hand side, you do have different options. One is commit, you do have the resource manager, the pull request, and there are also a few more tool windows. Okay, so if you guys will be able to data analysis, you will be able to see the app quality insights. If you do face any problems, you guys will be able to see that. The terminal option, you do have the Git as well. So from here now to run this one, the easiest one is where do you want to run it? Let's say if you do have a Chrome web over here, make sure to choose any search engine. You guys can use the Edge. Okay, if you do have the Edge browser, I will just run it on my Chrome web. And from here, as the main.dart is selected, I will just click on run. Okay, so over here, you guys will be able to see that it will just open my web application in uh, Google Chrome. Okay, so it might take some time for it to get started, but here, as you guys can see on my screen, already it had opened me this home page. Okay. So I will just decrease its size a little bit because I'm basically creating up a wave application. So for that now let's decrease the size. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to keep this one in one particular side. Okay, so gonna keep this one over here in one side, and you guys can see that this is basically the Flutter demo homepage. And if you just increase the size here, also you guys are able to see that now this doesn't look basically as a mobile application web page. Okay, so over here, if you do want to increment, you guys can add that. Now let's minimize this one right over here, and now I can just close this one up as well. Okay, so I do have closed this app up right over here. So this is one way of running your web application and to see how it actually works. And the other way of how you guys will be able to do is if you come here and if you basically add out a device. Okay, so if you come here and if you go to the device manager, or let's say, and from device manager you need to come here on top, and on top here you do have the option of adding a new device. Okay, so there is a problem with my code. Now this is fine. Let's click on create virtual device, and here now you guys can see, once you clicked on creating virtual device, here it shows that what kind of emulator or what kind of device are you planning to create. Okay, so you guys can select the phone. You guys can see a lot of sizes are over here. And if you basically want to import hardware profiles, you guys can also do that. You do have the option of Pixel 9, Pixel 6 Pro on different kind of sizes. If you want to do it for tablet, Wear OS, desktop, you guys can also do that. So let me just go with Pixel 9 Pro, otherwise Pixel 9, Pixel 8. Let me just go with Pixel 8 over here, and from here I will just click on next. And after that, over here, basically, they're telling me to actually download a particular file. Okay. So from here, now they are basically telling me that to download or operating system right over here. You guys can see that these are system images. Okay. So a system image must be selected to continue. So these are different kind of APIs over here, and also for demo you guys can see this kind of APIs might not be available in the market as well, but for basically working over here in the Android uh, studio, here they already do have all these options. Okay, so from here now I am going to actually download one. Let's say I will just download this. And here you guys can see this particular thing is basically downloaded. Okay. So this is actually going to take me a lot of time, which is the size is around 1.6 GB. So till then, I'll just pause this video and we'll continue once this file is being installed. So now my OS over here has been installed. Okay, so I'll just finish it up right over here. And as you guys can see, now this is basically this OS, okay, which I can basically use. And once I click on next, here you guys can see that I can just fix the name. Okay, so the name over here actually consists of the name of the phone and also the OS that you're using. So I'll just keep it like this, the way it is. and the screen size is fine, very nice, which is Android 15.0, 64-bit. Preferred ABI, I'll just keep it optimal. Portrait, graphics, automatic, enable device frame. If you do want to get all the advanced settings, you guys can come here and you guys can basically get all the advanced settings right over here. And once you're done, now you guys can just click on finish. And now let's come here. If you do want to delete anyone, you guys can come here and you guys can basically delete anyone from here. So let's increase it right over here, and you guys can see under the device manager, this both of these devices have been added. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do here is, if I do wanna run it, I can actually run this one. Okay, so to start, once I run this one, this particular emulator to open, it might take some time as well. Okay, so let's click over here, and you guys will be able to see that it will just take some time to get started. Okay, so here you guys can see, to launch a virtual device, there were few options available, but now here you guys can see that it is basically connecting to the emulator. Okay, so it will just give me a virtual device from where I can actually run my file. Okay, so once here you guys can see this is getting imported, so I will just wait. So for me, I will prefer not to use it all the time. Okay, so if you just use it all the time, it actually takes a lot of space and it actually puts a lot of pressure onto your hardware once you're working. Okay, and once you have imported this here, you guys can see, if you want to power it off here, if you do want to volume up or volume down here, if you do want to rotate it on the left, if you do want to rotate it on the right, if you do want to go back on anything once you have created your file, if you want to see the home page, if you do want to see all the overview, and if you do want to take a screenshot of your device here, if you do want to record screen this one, if you do want to take snapshots of anything, you guys can basically do that. And lastly, over here, you do have the hardware input option. Okay, so basically, you guys can see right over here. This is just like a simple mobile of how it actually works. And from here, now if you just go to the selecting device option, you guys can come here and you guys can select this Pixel 8 API as well. Okay, and from here, now if you just run it, okay, you guys will be able to see that here the application will basically get imported, and you guys will be able to see how your application, web application, will will be seen over here into your phone. Okay, like how it will show right over here. So we'll see about that. So this particular thing also might take some time, because as you're importing it for the very first time, your hardware and software basically need some time to adjust and basically process the whole thing. But once you do it again and again, basically it will just get used to it, and it will not take a lot of time as much as it's taking right now. So now over here, as you guys can see, my web application has been imported over here in my virtual device. Okay, so basically it took some time for me to do that, but here you guys can see my web application is now being run over here, and you guys can see it quite well. Okay, So if you just make any changes over here in the code, you guys will be able to see it live right over here. But the main thing is that I don't want to run it here in my visual uh, device. Okay, because it is putting a lot of pressure on my hardware, which is not good for the system. Okay, so instead, what I can also do is that I can connect my phone, whichever phone I do use, and I can just run the Flutter web application in my phone itself. Okay, so how you guys will be able to do so. So first thing, what you need to do is you need to stop the main dart over here, and after that make sure to turn it off. And also if you do want to delete it altogether, you guys can delete it as well. But instead I won't delete it. But now let's hide it up. And from device manager, if I do want to connect it later, connect it later as well. Okay, so make sure to get yourself a phone. Okay, or let's say make yourself to get your USB cable using which you're going to connect it to your PC. And also now how I am going to show you guys that how I will be able to show you here in my PC that I have connected my phone. Okay, so I'll just screen share it. So for that, I'm just downloading one application which is known as Visor. Okay, so I'll just open it up over here and I will just double click for this visor. And also over here, you guys can see that you do have the option of Mac OS or Windows. So now basically I will just try to install the visor from here, and most probably Android USB debugging is enabled and all these options are right over here. Connect network or share devices, and I will just connect my phone with USB. So once you do that, I will just come here. Let me just close this one up. Okay. So let's come here, connect network on share devices, connect to an Android device with ADB over TCP IP enabled or a visor share link. Okay. So you guys can come here and you guys can actually do that. It needs to install ADB drivers. Okay, so from here again, I will download the drivers, uh, right from here. And this particular driver is around 16.3 MB. So I'll just wait for it to get downloaded. And once you're working over here, you guys need to make sure that you basically have uh, your device selected right over here once you work. Okay. And also you need to make sure that you do have your developer option on in your PC. So whichever phone you guys are using, if you just go to the YouTube, and from YouTube, if you just basically type uh, the model of your phone and then type how you can turn on the developer option, it will basically show you guys how to do so. Okay. And after that, you need to make sure that you connect your phone with the PC over here. So let me try to do so. Let's come here and let's double click onto this option, and I will just click on next, next over here, next, and here you guys can see it is being installed. So once this is done, I'll just click on close. Let's close this thing up here as well. Show serial numbers. or use Android SDK ADB server. No Android devices are connected with a data cable, and USB debugging is enabled. So I need to make sure that the USB debugging is enabled. So let's come here. And I will just select, or let's say connect, transfer and connected device. So now over here, as you guys can see, I am able to see my device right over here. Okay. So as you guys can see, and I'll be sharing the screen as well. And for that, what I'm going to do is again going to this particular application, Android Studio. And from Android Studio, now if you just go to this select device option, okay, here you guys can see that I do have my mobile phone as well. Okay. And from here, now what I'll do is I will just run this one. Okay. So I'll just run this right over here, and at the same time, I will just go to Visor. Okay. And from Visor, I am going to view this device as well. Okay. So I'm going to view this particular device of mine right over here. And as you guys can see, uh, here is my device. So let me just close this thing down. If you do want to decrease the size, okay, I'll just decrease the size from here, and let me just keep this thing in one side. And over here now you guys can see that the demo page is being opened over here. Okay, so let me just keep this one over here in one side. Okay, so if you do want to make it full screen, okay, you guys can make it full screen as well. So I'll just close this down, and you guys can see that I can just go back. I can just go to my home page, and here I do have the recent task bar as well. So this is my phone, and I am able to show you guys how it actually works right over here. So from here, you guys can select the device where you want to show. Do you want to show it inside your phone? Do you want to show it on the Windows? Do you want to show it in any web browser? Or you want to show it inside these virtual devices which you have actually created? Okay. So starting these things for the very first time might take a bit of time, but with time, once you keep on doing it, it will basically be a lot easier. Okay, so let's come again over here in the visor. If you do wanna see it back up again, you guys can see it right over here. So using your device and viewing it actually takes or makes this particular thing a lot easier, and basically decreases the pressure on your device itself, because you are just coding here as well. And also if you're using the virtual emulator, it is actually putting a lot of pressure into your device. Okay, so it's better that you connect your phone and basically work with that itself. Okay, so yeah, I hope this particular class was clear for you all. So I hope to see you all in the next chapter where we're gonna learn more about this. So before ending now, let's come here, and I'll just close this thing down, and I'll just stop the main dart as well. And from here also, I will just close this thing. Okay, so let me just close visor. So hope to see you all in the next chapter. Till then, take care and goodbye everyone. Hello everyone, and welcome you all to another chapter of the Flutter tutorial. So now we are on our chapter number 4, where we'll be learning understanding about the basic about the folder structure in Flutter. So we are going to get some basic understanding about the folder structure. Okay, like once you create a application inside Flutter, it does create a lot of folders. Okay, so we're gonna see that what each folder basically does. We are going to work about all of that. First, I'll be showing you guys about what folders we guys are talking about, and then I will be telling you guys what that particular folder holds, how it's helpful, what are the folders that we need to focus more on, and what are the folders that we will just keep it untouched, like we won't make any changes to it. So let's not waste much time and let's get started. So over here on my screen, as you guys can see, now here I am in the Flutter application. Okay. So if you just click over here, now this is basically the application one. Otherwise, if you do want me to close this project, okay, and here from here now, let's open it up. I will be opening up the same thing. So the folders we guys will be talking about over here, it is basically the folders on the left hand side. Okay. So under this particular folder, I do have this dot underscore tool file. I do have the dot idea. So each of these folder basically holds different kind of information, because all these folders are basically not just only for show, and out of these folders some of the folders we are going to use most of our time while actually creating our application. Okay, so there is a lib folder, there is iOS, there is build one. Okay, there is this Android folder. Here we do have git ignore, dot metadata. Okay, and here we also do have that pubspec dot log. We do have the pubspec dot yaml. So we're gonna learn about all of that. So now let's get started. So the first folder about which we guys are going to talk about is the dot idea folder, okay, which is just placed underneath the dart underscore tool file. Okay, so the first feature of this particular file is this particular folder stays at top in the project structure. Okay, so as you guys can see, this dot idea folder basically is on top of the project structure. So the project structure is basically the set of folders. They do call it the project structure, and it always stays on top. Okay, and the dot idea folder basically holds the whole configuration for the Android Studio. So Android Studio is basically the integrated development environment which we were using to actually do our coding for our application that we are going to build. So it basically holds the whole configuration for the Android Studio, which is quite important. But the main thing is that we are not going to work with this particular folder. Like we will just keep it the way it is. We won't be going there and making any changes manually over there. And also, as we are not working inside that particular folder, the content, whatever content is basically present inside the dot idea folder should be ignored, and we should not make any changes at all. Okay, like if you make any changes, it will just give us some extra headache afterwards. Again, we have to reset and stuff, which is another quite hectic thing for us to do, because as we are getting started with it. Okay, so I will just suggest you guys that just keep it the way it is and don't bother. Okay, and the next folder which we are going to talk about is basically this Android folder, okay, which we can also call is at the dot Android folder in the project panel. So .android, it is used when it builds the Flutter application for Android. Okay. So over here, we are actually building a mobile application for Android and for an iOS. Okay. So over here, this .android folder basically is used when it builds Flutter application for an Android device. Okay, so it is only activated and it is only used when it actually builds a Flutter application for Android. So if you guys have remember when I was actually creating up a new Flutter project, I do have selected that I want to do some coding or I want to build a web application for Android and for iOS. Okay, so now it actually holds the application and also it holds a complete Android project. So for developing an Android project, whatever codes we basically need, it holds all of that inside this particular project. And the whole Flutter code is basically compiled into the native code. Okay, so we have also learned before that what a native code is, what are native features of a particular device. Okay, so the whole Flutter code, whatever code is available, is compiled into the native code, and also it basically gets injected into the Android project. Okay, so it basically gets injected into the Android project, and the outcome is a native Android application. Okay, so the outcome which you'll be receiving is you will be receiving a basic on a native Android application. Okay, so that's what the .android folder basically does. And the next folder which we are going to talk about is the .ios. Okay, so in .android we learned that it holds a complete Android project. Okay, and it is only used when it builds the Flutter application for an Android. So this is just the same thing, but it is for iOS. So it holds a complete Mac project, not a complete Windows or not a complete Android project. Okay. And it is only being used when you are developing a Mac project, and it also builds the Flutter application for iOS. Okay. And Flutter code is actually compiled into the native code. And basically, the result of this is a native iOS application, not a native Android application. And also, it gets injected into the iOS project. And this particular thing, or getting the .ios file compiled and having things inside this, is only possible in if you are creating a Flutter application for iOS and on only when you're working on Mac OS. Okay, so using a Windows application, you guys can't create a Flutter application for iOS. So for creating an iOS application, you only have to use Mac OS. It can be a laptop and it can be a PC, but the OS basically needs to be a Mac OS, not a Windows OS. Okay, so that's what the .ios folder does, holds a complete Mac project, and also it builds applications for iOS. And the next folder, what we're gonna learn is basically the lib. Okay. So here, if you guys take a look, this is where I do have the .ios file. And next thing we are going to learn is the .lib. Okay. So the full form of .lib file is basically the library. And this is very important folder, and we are going to make use of this folder most of the time. Okay, so out of the folders which we have seen till now, we are going to use this .lib file 99% of the time. Okay, because here we do have different kind of libraries for different type of projects. We need to use different kind of libraries as well. Okay, so the first point is that it is a very important folder where we are going to do our project work. Okay, so over here basically we are going to do our project work, and it is a very important folder. And as I've told you guys earlier, that .lib stands for library, and inside this particular folder, we will also find the Dart file which stores the code of our Flutter application. So basically inside this folder, we are going to find the Dart file which actually stores the code for the Flutter application that we are building. Okay, so as we already know that once we are creating a Flutter application, we need Dart file. So it will store the Dart file and the code for the application that we are going to run or which we are basically creating. So this particular .lib file, we are going to use it most of the time, and it is present just on top of the test folder. And the next thing we are going to talk about is basically the test folder. Well, the test folder also contains the Dart code, which is written for the Flutter application as well. And also the particular test folder performs the automated test when building the application. So while performing an automated test when building the application, it actually helps a lot. And this particular folder is also not that important as it is automatically been tested. Okay, so it performs automated tests when building the particular app. It basically checks. Okay, so we don't need to make any manual changes into this particular folder as well. Okay, and the next folder which we are going to talk about is .ignore folder. Okay, so the first thing what we are going to learn about the git ignore folder is that it is a text file. Okay, so the type of file it is a text file, and also this particular git ignore file contains a list of files, file extension, and a folder. And basically, if I tell you guys in simple word that what a git ignore file have in common is that once you are uploading your application in the GitHub, in that case, this git ignore file will actually compile of the things that it will not upload or it will not show. Okay, like these are the files will not get uploaded and which will get ignored while you try to upload your particular set of application inside GitHub. Okay, so it directs Git to choose which files should be ignored in a set of projects. Okay, so in a particular project, it directs Git to choose that which files it should ignore and which files it should take. So it also plays a very vital role while we work in developing a Flutter application, and the git ignore file is just underneath the test folder. And the next thing we are going to learn about the folder is basically the metadata. Okay, so metadata is also an auto-generated file by the Flutter tool. Okay, so the content inside the folder.metadata is auto-generated, and also it keeps track of the properties of the Flutter project. Okay, so basically it keeps track of all the properties of the Flutter project, and also it performs a lot of internal tasks. Okay, so a particular folder or a particular application have a lot of internal tasks which is needed to be performed. So the .metadata folder or inside this particular folder, they perform a lot of internal tasks. Okay. But over here also into the .metadata file, we don't have to edit whatever content is present inside manually at any time. Okay. So it will just do its own work automatically. Okay, so that is a very good thing that we don't have to put much of our effect here in this particular folder, because I have already told you that 99% of the time we are going to work on with the .lib folder, which is the .library folder. Once we are over here in the project panel, and the next folder we are going to talk about is the pub pubspec.yaml. Okay, so the pubspec.yaml is the project configuration file. Okay, so this is also a very important file that we guys are going to work with, because this particular folder basically contains the project configuration file. Like, what is the configuration of the project that we guys are working on? It consists of that. And also we are going to use this a lot when working on the Flutter project, as I have already told you, which is the point number 2. And also it controls on how our application works. Okay, so once we're running our application, the pubspec.yaml file or folder basically controls on how your application works. And a pubspec.yml file contains the name of the project. Okay, so it contains what is the name of the project over here, and also it contains that what is the version and the description of the project. Okay, so if you do have a project open, so over here in the pubspec.yml file, we will be able to see that what is the version and also the description of the project. Okay, and also from this particular folder, we are going to able to see the project dependencies and also the project assets. So assets are like widgets or text files. We will be able to see images over here. Okay, so that all, and the pubspec.yml file is just underneath the pubspec.log file. Okay, and the next folder we are going to talk about is basically the pubspec.log file, which is right over here. So here we have learned about the pubspec.yml. So as I was telling you guys that most of the time while we are on our Flutter application, we are going to be using the library file, okay, or the library folder, and also the 1% which is left that we are going to use is the pubspec.yml folder. Okay, so basically while creating a application, we are going to use both of these files for manual changes. So the first is .lib, okay, and the other one is pubspec.yml file. Okay, so now let's go back at the pubspec.log and let's see its features. So this is also an auto-generated file, or the all the content inside this particular file is auto-generated, and basically it is based on the YAML file. Okay, so this particular pubspec.log file or folder is based on the W or YAML file which is present over there. Okay, and the pubspec.log file contains more detailed setup about all dependencies available. Okay, so it contains a lot more detailed setup about all the dependencies that are present. So yeah, I hope now you guys have got up a basic idea about the folders that we are going to see a lot often once we are building our application. Okay, so over here in detail, we do have learned about the .idea folder. We have learned about the .android folder, what all it contains, how important this is. We have learned about the .ios folder, what are its features, and what does it do for us. Okay, we have learned about that how important the .lib file is, and we are going to use it 99% of the time when we are working with the project panel. And also we have learned about the test folder. We have also learned about the .git ignore folder, about the .metadata folder, and also about the pubspec.yaml, and lastly about the pubspec.lock. So I hope to see you all in the next chapter where we're going to learn more about Flutter and its usage and its working. So see you all in the next chapter. Till then, take care and goodbye everyone. And welcome you all to another chapter of the Flutter tutorial. So now we are on our chapter number 5 where we'll be understanding about activity and widget. Okay. So here we will see the difference between what is an and what is a widget over here. So let's not waste much time and let's get started. So over here on my screen, as you guys can see that I do have in total of 10 web application pages. Okay. So there are 10 pages and you know that what are web application pages. Okay, let's say this is called the home page, okay, or the login page. This is the details page. Okay, this one you can call it as the balance page, account information page. This is your card information page. This is the transaction page. Okay, three of this. Okay, over here, this is the payment page, and this is the extend page. Okay, so as we will be moving on to learning about how these things actually work, or we will be basically learning about widgets and activity, and I will be using both of these terms quite often, and that you guys don't get confused that what is basically a widget and what is an activity. Okay, so each page, whatever you guys can see over here, so each page basically have a lot of things. If you just take a look, so over here first I do have a logo, I do have a text, I do have this button. Okay, so many text over here as well. There are boxes. Okay, so all these things, a particular page of a web application is basically called an activity. Okay, so a page of a web application is called an activity. So here there are, you guys can basically call it as the uh, login activity. This one can be called as the details activity. This one can be called as a balance activity. Okay, so you guys can just call them as activity. But whereas what is a widget? Okay, so inside this same particular page, if you take a look, I have a logo, I have a text. I have this particular boxes. So all the components and all the elements present inside a web page is basically called a widget. Okay. So one activity can contain multiple and different kind of widgets, but one widget can't contain different activity. Okay. So in simple words, if I say that one page can contain a lot of elements inside, but one element can't contain a lot of pages inside them. Okay. So this is basically the difference between a widget and an activity. So I hope you guys have understood. So I just given you guys the example of the very first page. Okay, if you take a look, you guys can see that here the back button. Here you guys can see the dash button over here, the menu button. That is also a widget. Over here, this particular transfer button is a widget. All this text over here is a widget. The sign up button, the cancel button. Over here, you guys can also see the send one. Over here, you guys can see the details option, the QR code. All of these are basically widgets inside a particular activity. Okay. So yeah, I hope this class was clear. And now you guys are also clear about what is that activity and what is a widget, because both of these terms I am going to use a lot when we move deeper into our classes. So see you all in the next chapter. Till then, take care and goodbye, hello everyone, and welcome you all to another chapter of the Flutter tutorial. So now we are on our chapter number 6, where we'll be understanding about the main source code flow. Okay, because from our next chapter we will be to the practical part. But before moving on to that, understanding the source code flow about the main source code flow is very important. Okay, so we need to understand about the main source code flow, how it actually works, what is the process of creating an activity page, and how the whole thing basically works. So let's not waste much time and let's get started. So over here on my screen, as you guys can see that I do have basically a chart, and on the right hand side, you guys can see that I do have the main source code. Okay. So there are few different things which actually is present inside the main source code flow. Okay. So the first thing which is present or which function is basically applied for working main source code is basically the main function. Okay. So the main function is the most important function for creating your main source code. Okay. So over here, if you take a look, I do have an example. So once you have imported the package of Flutter slash material dot dart, you are starting with a function written as void main, then you are running the app. Okay. So these three things, the main function, my app function, and the material app function, these three are the most important three things that you need to make sure that you have once you're creating any web application page. Okay. So over here, now, inside this main function only, you do have my app, the material app, the activity page, the scaffold, and the app bar and the body. Okay. So under this main function, what you are doing is you are running my app. Okay. So basically under the main function, what you guys are doing is you are running the my app function. Okay, so any app which you're creating, you need to make sure that you have to run it under the main option. And here also you guys can see that here it shows you guys the class. Okay, so over here they're telling that inside the main function you are going to run my app application. Okay, so that's why you have mentioned class, which is my app. And here you guys can see it's written that stateless widget. Okay, so we are gonna learn later that what is a stateless widget, what is basically a stateful widget. Okay, so here you guys can see a stateful widget is also there. Okay, so we will be learning about that as well. Okay, so first you do have the main function, and inside the main function you run your particular app or you run your particular application. And once you're running your application, there are widgets as well. Okay. So here you guys can see inside the inside your application, you do have a lot of widgets. Okay. So I have explained you guys what widgets are. So once you have a lot of widgets, okay, you tend to return the material app. Okay. So over here, first thing is that the whole environment is basically inside the main function, and under the main function, you create your application, and under your application you go for the material application. Okay, or you basically take so many widgets. Okay, so here you guys can see it returns material app. Okay, so that's it. And once you have created those widgets, the next thing is that you need to create an activity page. Okay, so these three things are the main thing for creating a web page application. Okay, that you need to do only. And now once you have your main function, the environment. Now, once you have the application as well, and you do have your material application, the next thing is that you have to work with the activity page. Okay, so now you need to make sure that you work on the activity page. Okay, so I have showed you guys what an activity page is, and inside the activity page you need to make sure that you need to have scaffold. Okay. So over here, if you just take a look here, it says return scaffold. Okay. So what are scaffolds basically? So scaffold basically contains the app bar, the body, okay, the navigation bar. Okay. So over here, it contains all of these things. So let's try to understand the main source code flow over here again. So main is the function inside which you run the application. And over here, once you run the application, there you also do need widgets for running the application. And once you have the widget, after that, to make it visible, you do have the activity page. Okay. And inside your activity page, you do have the scaffold, and scaffold basically contains the app bar, the body, the navigation bar, all of these things. Okay. So you guys will understand it in a better way if I just show you guys the example with the one which I was showing in my last class, where I have showed you guys a ton of web page applications, okay, for demo. So yeah, here I do have my web application pages back here again. So now let's say this is an activity page. Okay, so this is the login activity. This is the client details activity. Okay, or let's say this activity page. Okay, So once you create this activity page, or each web application page is known as activity page, and once you have created this activity page, the next thing what happens is that it contains scaffold. Okay. So as we already know that an activity page contains different widgets, the button over here, these boxes, these logos, different kind of text. But once you create an activity page, automatically what happens is that it contains scaffold already. Okay. So on top of scaffold, what we guys do is on top of scaffold, we do put out the widget. Okay. And the whole thing just after producing an activity page, here you do have the scaffold, and scaffold can contain a logo, scaffold can contain the text. This particular scaffold can also contain the login button, all these particular options. Here you do have the sign up option, and also here you do have the forgot password option as well. So these are few of the things that you should remember. And yeah, I hope this particular class was clear on understanding about the main source code flow of how it actually works, what are the different processes of basically working with all of this. So I hope to see you all in the next chapter. Till then, take care and goodbye, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome you all to the chapter of the Flutter tutorial. So now we are on our chapter number 7, where I'll be showing you guys by creating a main source code in Flutter. Okay, so in our last class, we do have learned about how you will be able to create the main.dart file. Okay, like what all it contains. Okay, it contains the main page, it contains my app, then it also contains so many widgets and all the other things. So we are going to create that particular thing from the scratch, and we will learn about that in detail. So let's not waste much time and let's get started. So in our last class, we do have learned about the main. Okay, so over here, we have learned about the main page, and also after that, we have seen that you have to create a particular class under this main page. Okay, so inside this main function, you do have the my app function, and inside that, you do have your material app inside the widget. Okay, you do have the material app, and under this over here you basically have your activity page. Okay, so activity page is like a normal web application page, and inside a web application page you do have the scaffold. Okay, so a particular scaffold basically holds the app bar, the body, the navigation bar, or any widgets present inside the activity page is known as scaffold. Okay, so we're gonna learn how you will be able to do so. So for that, now let's come here, let's minimize this, and let's open up my Flutter file, okay, or let's Android Studio, okay. So let me just type Android Studio, and let's open it up. And over there, as we have already worked on that particular file, you guys will be able to see that in the recent file, I will have my application. Okay. So now let's wait for a while because it might take some time for it to get started. Okay. So totally depends on the type of PC or the type of laptop you're using, how many tab you're using. Okay. So automatically, as you guys can see, my main.dart file has been opened. Okay. So now let's come here and let's select the whole thing. Okay. And from here, I will just delete the whole thing from here itself. Okay. So the first thing what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create the main file or the main function. Okay. So I will just type main. Let's open and close parenthesis. And after that, I am going to open up the curly braces. Okay. So I'll just come here. I'll just open up my curly braces and I will just give the command which is run app. Okay. So over here, I will just put run app. Let's open parenthesis. And inside this run app, I need to make sure that what I will put. Okay. What is the app I'm going to put? Because over here, if you take a look, you guys can see that after the main function, I do have my app. Okay. So I do need to make sure that I create a class and over here I mention the application or my application which I will create. Okay. So over here now I will just come down. Let's click on enter. So now basically I want to create a application. Okay. Because I need to make sure that I put that particular application right over here, which will basically run. Okay. So for that, I will just, I have defined my particular application as class and I can just name anything. So let me just name it as my application and I will just combine uh, this one with stateless widget. Okay. So stateless widget. Okay. So over here, you guys can see stateless widget over here. And after writing the stateless widget, I am going to open up the curly brace. Okay. So over here, as you guys can see, now I do have opened up the curly braces right over here. As you guys can see, this is the stateless widget. Over here, I do have mentioned the name of the application as my application. And I do have also combine this particular thing with the stateless widget. Okay. So once you are done with this, now one particular thing which you need to do here is basically you need to override a particular function. Okay. So I'll just keep my cursor on top of the name of this particular application or this particular my app and I'll just click on Alt and Enter. And once I have clicked on Alt and Enter, here it shows me that what are all I need to do. Okay. So first it's telling me to import package flutter.cupertino.dart. Okay. So over here now on top, if you guys just take a look. Okay. So let me just place it on the very top. Okay. So over here now I do have imported package dot flutter. So this is very important thing that you need to do. And after that, again, I will just keep my cursor in this particular name of my application. So if I just click on uh, Alt and Enter, there is an important thing which I need to do is that I need to create one missing override. Okay. So over here, I need to make sure that I create a particular override. So it will just override a particular widget. And if I just click over here, you guys can see it is basically overriding this thing. Let's click on enter or let's click on enter over here, enter over here as well. And here you guys can see add override. And here it is actually working on with this build widget. And inside this bracket, I do have the build context function. Okay. So over here, you guys can actually put this thing right over here. And now as I do have created this particular application, I need to make sure that I put this one inside my run app application. Okay, so I will just type my application. Okay, so as you guys can see, I do have the my application. So I will just type my application and I will just open and close parenthesis. Okay. So under here, under run app, you guys can see I do have my application. And also over here, what I need to do is I want to keep this particular application constant. Okay. So for that, I will just type const, which is const, and I will just give it out a space right over here. And let me also close this down with semicolon. Okay, so over here, I will just close this down with semicolon. Okay, and I can mention over here that this is the application. Okay, so over here, as I do have mentioned that I want to keep this my app or my application as constant. Over here also, once I am creating my application file over here, I also need to add a key component. Okay, so if I just click on Alt plus Enter, here you guys need to add a key to the constructor. Okay, so to keep it constant, I need to actually add a key to this particular constructor. So if I just click on key to constructor, this is how it will look. Okay, so I will just give it out a space right over here. And now if you guys just take a look, okay, you guys will be able to see that two part of the main source code flow is basically done. So the first thing is that I have created the main function manually, and also I do have created my application or my app function manually as well. Okay, so over here this is the main function. Okay, and under the main function I do have my application inside class, which extends with the stateless widget. Okay, and I have also mentioned this one that this will be constant. I have also applied that where you have to apply a override on the widget and on which particular widget as well. And now the next thing what I need to do is I need to create a material app under my application. So over here inside this particular widget, okay, so or inside this particular my application over here or inside this build widget, now I need to make sure that I also create another one. Okay, so I need to make sure that I return the material app over here. So for that, I'll just click on backspace and over here, I am going to type return. And also I want to keep this one as constant. So let me just keep this one as const. And after that, I am going to type material app. Okay, so I'll just type material app. And once you have typed, let's go with material app. And once you have written material app as well, now the next thing is let's open parenthesis. And inside this material app, I want to have different kind of pages. Okay, so let me just name the first page as home. Let me use the colon. And after the colon, I want to name my first page as home activity. And after that, after I have mentioned that inside this build widget, I want to return the constant of material app, and inside material app, I will have this particular page. Okay, so I'll just type home activity, and now let's open and close parenthesis over here. And now, once you have done this, now the next thing is that you have to create another class, okay? Or you have to create another widget over here. So if you do want to create another page, now let's come here. And from here, first thing first, I need to mention a class. So let me just type a class home activity. And after that, extend. And I'll just give it some space and let's type uh, state stateless widget. Okay, so I'll just type stateless widget. And again, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to open up the curly brace. Okay, so once I do have opened up the curly braces, and again, the same way, wherever you are creating a class uh, or a widget, make sure that always to run an override code. Okay, so let's click on Alt and Enter. Okay, so if you do come here, uh, go back class home activity. Okay, so over here also. So now once I have created this particular class, let me just import the material app option for Flutter app plus enter, and let's just import this particular function as well. Okay, so here you guys can see the material.dart package for Flutter is being installed as well. Okay, so now let's come here into the class home activity, and the same way I will just come here. Let's type extend. Let's give it our space, or let's just come totally here. If you do want to delete it, you guys can just delete this whole thing as well. Okay, so constant my app super dot key. The override is done here as well. Okay, so here you guys can see the closing. Okay, so over here it's closing this one, over here it is closing that one. Let's click on enter. And now let's type class, or let's go with uh let's click on enter, and I will just type class right over here. Let's go with class, and after that I will just type home activity. Now I'll just give this particular thing a space. Okay, home activity, extend stateless widget. Okay, so stateless widget. And after that, now I am going to open my curly braces. Okay, so let's come here, and from here now let's open up the curly braces. Let's click on enter, and let's come down, and the same way what I'm going to do is I am going to use this override function. Okay, so you guys can see over here I do have used same way home plus activity. Let's click on alt and enter. Okay, so now let's come here. So now once you are done creating this class, now over here you have to basically click on alt and enter. And again, you need to create one missing override. Okay. So just click it right over here. Let's click on enter to go down again. Okay. So over here, let's click on enter. And now again, the same way, what I need to do is I basically need to add a constant. Okay. So again, home activity, alt plus enter, and I need to add a key constructor. So I will just come here and click on to give me a key constructor. Okay. So till here, I hope you guys do have basically understood. Okay. So first off, we have created my main function, and inside the main function I do have my application. Okay, it contains the application, and inside the application it contains the material application. And for material application also, you guys can see I do have imported the package of material dot dart. Okay, and other over here you guys can see I have named the home page as home activity. Okay, so now as this is done over here as well, okay, so now if you just take out a look, okay, so if you just come here, let's take out a look. We have the main app, we have the my application. Over here, I do have the material app. Now we do have the home activity. And after home activity, you guys can see after each activity page, we also have a scaffold. Okay. So if I just show you guys an example here, basically this is a web page. Okay, so as you guys can see, this is the web application page or activity page over here, and all the items over here inside which we have are called as widgets. Okay, so over here we need to understand that scaffold basically holds all the widget whatever you put inside your web application page. Okay, so for that now that I read scaffold. So let me just close this thing down as well. And what I'm gonna do is once I do have mentioned, okay. So once I have mentioned it right over here after this widget, okay. So I will just come here and let me just delete this. So let's click on backspace. Now let's click on tab, and I will just click on tab again, and what I'm gonna do is I'm going to type return scaffold. Okay, so over here as you guys can see return scaffold, and now I will just click on enter. I'll just click on enter over here, and I will just click on enter over here back again. So if I come here, let's put out the semicolon over here. And inside the scaffold, if you guys take a look, right now I don't have anything. So let's run this one. Let's put on Chrome Wave, and from here, I want to run the main Dart. Okay. So over here, you guys can see that error getters, setters, and methods can't be declared to be cons. Okay, so over here you guys can see this particular thing is basically showing me the analysis issue. Okay, so my app couldn't find constructor. Okay, so over here basically I did add the constructor. Let's go with my app, and if you do want to add this thing right over here, which is stateless widget. Okay, so stateless widget over here. If you do wanna convert it to stateful widget, you guys can also do that right over here. So basically over here, I do have changed the name. Okay, so now let's try to run this one inside my Chrome. Okay, so you guys will be able to see that as my scaffold is empty, it will basically create me an empty web page. Okay, so it might take some time for it to get started. And the same thing, you guys can just run it inside emulator as well. Okay, but I am not using any emulator because what it will do is it will just put a lot of pressure on my PC. Okay, so here you guys can see now over here it shows me that once I've returned scaffold, I don't have anything inside this particular page. Okay, so I will see in Chrome that how my mobile application will look like. And after that, let's click on enter. And I'm going to add some things to my scaffold. And now I'm going to show you guys after that. So over here, now let's try to add an app bar. Okay. So over here, I am going to basically add an app bar. And let's name this one as app bar over here, and I can just keep this one as simple. And now if you just come right over here, okay, so restarted application. Okay, so if you just come here, okay, if you just refresh, let's just open this one, and over here you guys can see that I will also have and app bar. Okay, again, if I just click on enter, and if you do want to have a body, okay, so let's say I want to also have a body inside my scaffold. Okay, and here inside my body I want to also have a text. Okay, so I will just type text, and now I will just open parenthesis, let's open the double quote, and I want to type hello everyone. Okay, so let's type hello everyone. Let's put out exclamation mark as well. Okay, so Control S to save it. And now if I just refresh this, here you guys can see it's written hello everyone right over here. Okay, so you guys can see now I do have this hello everyone option. So inside this scaffold, you guys will be able to basically put a lot of things. Okay. So for example, now I do have just a simple app bar. But now inside the app bar, if I do want to put out any title, let's say, I want to put out a title, and also for title, my title will basically be in text. Okay. So again, I will just come here. I will just take out the text uh, data, and from here I will just open the double quote. And now after opening out the double quote, I will just type this is my application. Okay, so I'm going to put this one right over here, Control S to save it. And if you just come right over here on top, you guys can see here in the app bar, this is written as this is my application. Okay, so inside this scaffold, you guys can have your app bar, the body, the navigation bar, okay, the upper navigation bar, the lower navigation bar. Okay, so you guys can basically have all of these things right over here. Okay, so in our next class, we are also going to learn that how you are going to add a lot of things inside the scaffold, and we are going to learn in detail about other part or how to add a lot of components inside your scaffold. Okay, so here I hope you guys to have understood this particular class. So we tried to uh, show you guys that how you'll be able to create your main source code file. So first I have showed you guys about creating the main function. Then inside the main function, I have showed you guys how you can create your own application. And inside your application under the widget, how you can run your material app. And also after that, we have learned that how you guys will be able to actually run an activity page, and inside the activity page how you can actually add your scaffold, which contains your app bar, the body, the navigation bar. So yeah, I hope to see you all in the next chapter where we're gonna learn more about Flutter and its usage. So till then, take care and goodbye everyone. Hello everyone, and welcome you all to another chapter of the Flutter tutorial. So now we are on our chapter number 8, where we'll be learning about the material app class. Okay, so we're gonna learn how the material app class is important. We are gonna learn about it, and also we're gonna test all the features which it includes. So let's not waste much time and let's get started. So first, we're gonna learn that what the material app is. Okay. So the material app is basically a predefined class in Flutter. Okay. So in our last class, we do have created a class named as material app. We have returned that as well. Okay. So this is basically a predefined class. And also this is the core component of Flutter. Okay, so this is the core and one of the main component of Flutter. And why the material app component is very important. Okay, so this is something important that we should know as we are actually doing this separate chapter on the material app. So some of its features are that it controls the primary color, which is going to be used in the application. Let's say we can basically fix from the material app or basically write the code that what color the primary application or the primary color that the application will look like. Okay. And also the next one is that it controls that what kind of theme will be used in the application. Okay. Like whether a dark theme will be used, whether a normal theme will be used, what kind of color in case of a dark theme will be used, what kind of color will be used if I'm just normally in my application. So it controls all those simple things as well. Okay. And the next point over here is that it also decides whether to show the debug banner or not. Okay. And also it takes the Boolean value. So if you guys have noticed, once I have opened my application on the right hand side top corner, there was a small banner known as the debug banner because there it was shown written debug. Okay. So over here, you guys can also control that whether you want to see that particular debug banner inside your application or you do want to see that debug application. And it basically takes the Boolean value. Okay, using true and false, you guys can decide whether you want to see the debug banner or not. And the next feature is that it also controls that which widget or which component you want to show on the default root of the app. Okay. So in simple word, if I say that it will also be able to control that once you open up that particular mobile application. Okay. So once you open a mobile application, which page you will see first or by default, or which kind of component are you going to see by default. uh, the material app also controls these things as well. Okay, so it shows uh like the widget which you will be showing on default root of the application. Okay, and it also controls what is going to be the title for my application. Okay, so it will also control that what is going to be the title for the application over here. So now we will go into our Android Studio and we will see how it actually works. So now over here, you guys can see in our last class, we do have written this particular piece of code in the main.dart file. Okay. And over here, all only you guys can see that I do have the material app. Okay. So by default, as you guys can see, I do have already run this one and it is running as well. But what I want to do is I will just minimize this one and let me just feed the screen. Okay, so let's come over here and let me just feed it up. And also, as I do have this Chrome app, what I'm gonna do, I'm just keep this one on site. Okay, because when I make any changes over here, I also want to see it right over here. And I am not actually planning to put any kind of emulator right now, which is going to put a lot of pressure on my PC because I'm also running OBS at the same time to record this thing. Okay, so for that now, as you guys can see over here, I do have my material app. Okay, so let's come here and let's try to add other components over here. Okay, so material app, and what I'm gonna do is let's come here, let's click on enter. Okay, I'm going to click on enter over here again. Okay, and now let's come here, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna click on enter here as well. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is let's come to this particular point, and the first thing what I will do is I'll try to change out the theme. Okay, so let me turn off the caps, and here you guys can see I do have the option of theme, and over here now I will just access the component known as theme data. Okay, so I'll just put theme data, and now again I will just open the parenthesis, and from here now I will choose that once I have my theme. Okay, like once I do have my or once I have used this particular component known as the theme data, from here what color I am going to put as the primary swatch. So from here again I will just use the primary swatch. Okay, so as you guys can see, the primary swatch option, and inside the primary swatch option, I am going to use uh, the code of color dot, and once you click on colors dot, here you guys can see that you do have a lot of colors option available right over here. Okay, you do have blue, there is blue gray, there is cyan, brown, deep orange, deep purple. Okay, you guys can check out all of these colors. You guys can see they do have different shades of black as well. Okay, so from here now, let's say I do want to use some light colors. Okay, so let me just go with lime. Okay, so as you guys can see over here, now I have used dot lime color. Okay, so now if you just click right over here, and one thing we need to remember that once we are using this theme, or once you're working with this material app, we need to make sure that we delete constant, because theme and stuff is not going to stay constant. So that's why it's not showing me any changes. Okay, so material app, theme data, and over here you guys can see lime color, and now control S to save it up. Okay, so let's come here, return material app for theme data. And if you do want to use some other colors as well, let's go with blue. Okay, so if you do wanna use blue, you guys can also use the blue color as well. Okay, so if you want to flip the semantics, you guys can also come here and you guys can also change the semantics as well. Okay. So now once you're done here, you have already told the theme. Okay. So that is how it's going to look. And let's come here. And here you won't be able to see any changes yet. Okay. So over here, if you just come here now, let's reload it back again. Let's minimize it right over here. And now let's come to this particular point. Let's click on enter. And now I'm going to set that if my application is in dark theme, how it's going to look. Okay. So in the dark theme as well, I'm going to type theme data. And after writing theme data, let's open the parentheses. And from here, now again, I will just type primary swatch. Okay. So in the primary swatch, again, I will just go for color. Okay. So colors dot, and from here, basically, you guys can choose the color of how it will basically look right over here. Okay. So you guys can see uh, here how it actually looks. Okay. So again, here it shows dark theme dot theme data. Okay. And if you do want to stop this one, you guys can basically stop this as well. And again, if you do want to run this particular set of code, you guys can actually run this particular set of code as well. So let me see, is there any kind of changes or not? Is there any changes at all right over here? And what I'm gonna do is let me just minimize this one and let me just put it here in one side. Okay, so let's come here and let me just put this one right over here in one side. And after that, once I have put the dark theme as well, let's click on enter. Okay, and now I am going to select the color as well. Okay, like how the color is going to be. So over here I do have the option of color, and from here now I will just type color dot this amber accent. Okay, so I'm just going to take this amber accent color right over here. I can basically insert this one. Okay, so also over here we can also add, let's say, debug to text mode banner. So if you guys now take a look, I have also imported the emulator. Okay, so now let's come here, and if I just type false. Okay, so over here now I do have written false, control S to save it. And now on the left, right hand side top corner, I don't have the debug banner. Okay, so that's how you guys can actually work. So this is how it actually works. Here you can actually adjust the theme. You guys can choose that what is going to be the primary swatch color from here. Okay, so you guys will be able to choose that. You guys will be able to choose that once it basically changes. Okay, like return. Let's give it out a space. Control S to save it. Okay, so how all these things are basically going to look like. Okay, you are going to change out the color. And also over here, you guys can just click and basically adjust the color, okay, according to yourself. And if you exactly have any uh, color code, you guys can import the color code from here directly, and you guys can basically work. Okay, so that's about it. And if you want to see that what all you guys will be able to insert inside the material app, so for that, now let's come here, and once you're right over here, if you click on control, let's say control P, okay. So once you click on control P here, you guys can see that over here you will be able to add navigator key, okay, the scaffold messenger key. Here you guys can actually put on this widget builder. You guys can see that you can include all generator root. There are a lot of things that you guys can actually use. So to see this one, just come here any place inside of this material app, and from here just click on Control plus P from your keyboard, and all of these options will basically be visible. Okay, so now from here, let's click on Control S to save this thing up, and that's how the material app basically work. And yeah, I hope you guys have understood this particular class. So I hope to see you all in the next chapter where we're gonna learn more about Flutter and its application. So see you all in the next chapter. Till then, take care and goodbye everyone. Hello everyone, and welcome you all to another chapter of the Flutter tutorial. So now we are on our chapter number 9, where we'll be learning about the scaffold class. Okay, so we already have an understanding what a scaffold class is. We have seen that we returned scaffold class. We have created it inside our main.dart file. Okay, so over here we're gonna learn a bit more about scaffold class. So let's not waste much time and let's get started. So now over here on my screen, as you guys can see, that in our last class we do have learned about the material app. Okay, so under material app we have seen that how you can add theme, how you can actually set the primary swatch for your theme, how you can actually set the primary swatch for the dark theme if you ever choose that, the color, how you can actually move the checked banner, also about the home activity page. But here in this particular class, we are basically going to talk about scaffold. Okay, so I have showed you guys that if while running this particular app or while running this particular file, we don't have anything inside the scaffold option, then we will basically have a blank application. So let's come here. Let's run this back again in Chrome. Okay. So let's see over here. We will be able to see the app bar with a title as this is my application. Okay. So over here, as you guys can see, now let's decrease its size a little bit. And here you guys can see it shows that I do have the app bar, and the title of the app bar is this is my application. So I do have also mentioned that it will be in form of a text, and in the body you guys can see I have also mentioned that it will be in a text, and the text is basically hello everyone. Okay, so that's about it. And now we are also going to learn that how you can add more components to it. Like what are the other important things that you should include inside your scaffold class. Okay. So for that, what I'm gonna do is let's come here. If you take a look over here, is that what is a scaffold? Okay, so scaffold can occupy the whole screen device. Okay, so as I was showing you guys, and let's say this is basically the whole screen of the device. So it can actually contain the whole screen of the device. And inside the scaffold, you can have all the widgets, you can have the app bar. Okay, so here we will see what all can be included in the scaffold. So on the very top, you can add the app bar. Okay, and on the bottom here, you guys can basically add the bottom tab navigation bar. Okay, so there can be different kind of icons, there can be different kind of buttons. Okay, and inside here in the center, this is basically known as the body. Let's say you guys can add your text up. Okay, you guys can also add any floating action button. Let's say for a particular function, if you want to have a floating action button for doing anything or showing some pop-up menus for a particular action, okay, you guys can use the floating action button, and basically you guys can design it as your liking as well. Okay, so on the both side of the device, you guys can see that the first one is basically the drawer. Okay, so the drawer is basically if you come here and if you just click on the screen on any particular place, you will have a drop-off menu from the left-hand side of the screen. So the drop-up menu, whatever you guys will have in your phone on the left hand side is basically known as the drawer, and all the pop-up menu option which you will have from the right hand side, which are popping up from the right hand side, is known as the end drawer. Okay, so that's about it. So here you guys can also add some other things as well, but now these are all the important things which we have to include inside our scaffold or inside our screen. Okay, so now let's do that and let's do that in detail. Okay, so over here now we do have the app bar, we do have the body, and now over here we are basically going to add the drawer. So if you just come here and if you just type drawer, or if you just start typing, you guys can basically work on over here. And now for me, I'm not going to add anything over here, but from our next classes, we will go point by point inside the scaffold. Okay, so we are going to learn in a different chapter about app bar in detail, about the body in detail, about drawer, about the end drawer in detail. Okay, so over here, there I do have the end drawer. Okay, so now let's come down and let's type bottom navigation bar. Let's open and close parenthesis. Let's click on enter. And this is the floating action button. Let's open and close parenthesis over here. So these are all the items, and whatever we have seen over here in our diagram. So here it also have the app bar, the body, the floating action button, the bottom tab navigation, the drawer, which are the options will open from the left hand side, and the options which will pop up from the right hand side is known as the end drawer. And over here also inside the scaffold, I also do have the six options accordingly right over here as denoted by the parentheses. So yeah, I hope to see you all in the next chapter where we're gonna learn about all of these things in detail and particularly by dividing them in each part and also in detail about each and every option. So see you all in the next chapter. Till then, take care and goodbye everyone.